Hi folks, this is All the Fruit and welcome to another day of foraging in the beautiful and fruit-rich city of Heidelberg in Germany. We have the first days of April after a winter which is comparatively harsh. Run away while I forage you. Nah, I won't, I'm a vegetarian. Which was comparatively harsh for recent years in Germany. Even Crategus crusgali, which is a pretty hard, durable fruit, has been, well, half rotted away, half eaten by the birds. Yeah, hard and durable means it's definitely not the first choice. We have a couple of very tasty Crategus or hawthorn species here. This is not one of them. Tastes like a very dry apple, aromatic, but yeah, basically edible, but not as enjoyable as many other hawthorns. Here in those flower arrangements you can often find nice and edible stuff. Right now I don't find anything. Well, this is some lavender, at least it smells nice. The yuccas had some quite tasty flowers last year, but it seems like somebody has cut the flower stalks because I don't see any fruits or anything. If the flowers were so good, maybe the fruits were also, and also the young stalk is quite valuable as a food source. Yeah, really not much around here. Good rosemary. Well, you can flavor a lot of things with rosemary, but if you have nothing to flavor... Oh, here is one. Those things over there look strange, so I think those are the yuccas. Those are the yuccas which flowered last autumn, quite late. The other ones, maybe yuccas or some relative, but I'm not so sure. But those are definitely the yuccas, but flower stalks are gone, probably frozen during winter. And apart from them, I don't see anything too forageable around here. The daffodils are definitely toxic, but I wonder if Fritillaria imperialis is edible. Maybe you could check that for me. Those big flower pots are always very interesting. Right now they have olives and herbs and spices everywhere. Mint. Wood sorrel, a couple other things. The olive season is over. I remember it was in one of the pots in this restaurant where in the 90s I found the first ripe loquats ever in Germany. And I don't think they brought the pot inside in winter. It stayed outside, close to the river, which provides some sort of air conditioning. And yeah, was it here? Yes, I think it was here. Could have been the next restaurant at the same road, but I think it was here. First ripe loquats recorded by me in Germany. And here, by the way, somebody has thrown away. It looks like an apricot seed, or it could be some of the modern pluots, because it does look like 90% like an apricot, but also a bit like a plum tree. Traditionally, those don't grow so well in Heidelberg. They rather prefer the hotter and drier areas around Mannheim, about 20 kilometers from here. In Heidelberg, traditionally, very few apricots escape from like thrown away seeds. I still don't know whether the Himalaya palm has a good heart of palm. At least it has almost no spines. Of course, I wouldn't kill those trees here in the parks. I even know some of the gardeners, and they would kill me. No, knowing them for decades is not gonna help me. Probably it's gonna be even more painful, but I'm planning to go to Italy this year, and the areas in Italy where those things are invasive. And if they are edible, plus invasive, then they are fair game for me. Podium vulgare. This fern produces some substance, I forgot which one, which is much sweeter than sugar but doesn't contain any calories. But because it tastes a little bit strange, and also there seem to be either the sweet substance is harmful or the other harmful substances being together with it. I don't think it's being used commercially. Also, this fern is quite a good climate indicator. Basically, it freezes in really harsh winters, and also often March and April are such a dry time in Germany that often in April or May you see a lot of them dried up. Also after really harsh summers, the leaves dry up, the rhizome persists. This is a north-facing wall, but still, they all look nice. That means the winter was not too harsh in a historical context in Germany, and also the spring was not too dry. Here we have a selection of little white mustards. They all look very similar. This should be cardamine. This could be a Capsella bursa pastoris, but I'm not sure. Well, this year definitely is Capsella bursa pastoris with the triangular fruits. A Chinese girl recently told me that she likes to collect the stuff because of the aromatic root. Usually she also uses the leaves, usually before it flowers, and she uses it to make dumplings with this root and pork, that it seems the root gives it a very nice flavor. It's also been a very important food for thousands of years in Europe, usually growing in huge amounts in fallow fields and other neglected areas, and being foraged in huge amounts as a spring snack. And this year seems to be some pretty huge Aerophylla. Is this Aerophylla verna with those leaves? I have to check this. It looks a little bit unusual for Aerophylla. Well, you can try and ID it for me. Those are the fruits, those are the flowers, and those are the leaves. And it grows here in huge amounts. All those mustards are edible. Taste a little bit mustardy. But this is a very popular place. A very popular toilet, especially after pub visits at night. You can see that the plentiful urine here in the corner has burnt away all the little plants. That's why maybe I'm not gonna eat anything from here. Here again some edible wood sorrel, but still, this is right next to the most active pub street in Germany, most active pub street in Heidelberg, sorry. So a lot of people like to use it as a toilet. Oh well, around here I'm only gonna show you the stuff, I'm not gonna try it. Peach almond, a very popular ornamental here, a hybrid of peach and almond. Actually in peach and almond growing areas, it's very popular as a hardy rootstock. Here it's very popular, well, because it's hardy, because it flowers earlier than peach or almond, produces bigger and darker flowers. And here you can see in the first days of April, it's even produced a lot of tiny almonds. And a couple of those almonds here, most of them are already open. A couple of them are still closed. This is still heavy, so there is a good chance that at least some of them will still have edible almond seeds inside. But again, very popular toilet next to all the pubs, so I'll refrain from opening them. This cone is not from a conifer, but from a quite primitive angiosperm, Magnolia grandiflora. Very important tree climatically. When I read the book from, well, what was it, from the 50s or 60s, they say. During the decades we have managed to breed more and more magnolias which can survive the German climate. But there is one magnolia we will never manage to grow here in Germany, the evergreen Magnolia grandiflora. Now it's quite a popular street tree in this part of Germany. Climate change and modern hardier varieties make it possible, but you see a climate indicator which 60, 70 years ago nobody expected would be possible to grow in Germany, now grows here, which means that we can also introduce a plethora of new fruit and nut trees which people in Germany are not familiar and haven't been able to grow due to climatic reasons. I love chickweed, but this is again one of those areas. And my mother, she used to love dandelion, but for me the leaves are just too bitter. It's a very popular and supposedly very healthy salad, but too bitter for me. If you think jackpot, I found myself buckets full of cotoneaster. Yeah, unfortunately, this is some relative of Cotoneaster salicifolius, and it's incredibly bitter. The actually Cotoneaster species you can forage in spring. It's a lot more work to collect even a handful of berries from them. From this one, yes, you could collect buckets full, but they are just too bitter. If you know a way to remove the bitterness, maybe by cooking them or preparing them somehow, I would be glad, because spring is a very fruit-poor time in Germany, and a bucket full of tasty fruits in spring is better than no bucket full of tasty fruits in spring. This is some Parot Cissus, some relative of the grapevine. One species, Parot Cissus trichospidata, was very popular for providing alcoholic drinks and sugar in East Asia. They didn't use the berries are small and not good. They tapped the vine just like a sugar maple. And I didn't know how much those things can produce, but one guy here in the old town cut down an ancient Parot Cissus vine, and the whole road for weeks or maybe months was flooded with foamy, stinking, sugar-rich liquid. Many buckets came out. Many bucketful of this sap came out from this vine. So now I think that this is really, of course, no competitor for sugarcane or sugar beets. But if you want to forage for sugary sap in the forest, here in Germany, the forestry department will whoop your ass if you try to tap maples or birches in the forest. But one of those invasive things, if you tap it in the forest, the forestry departments are usually quite strict when it comes to trees. But if you want to do something in the forest which does not involve trees, usually you're okay to do so. Fire thorn usually has quite good quality berries which persist well into spring, but not here. There is not a single berry on this quite big shrub. And I never found anything about tapping hornbeam in literature, but once I cut off a twig of a couple twigs of a hornbeam, and there was very plentiful sap coming out. So please tell me if this is, well, it's worth collecting for drinking purposes as a water substitute, but I don't think it has a very high sugar content. Still tell me if you know something about tapping hornbeam. The garlic mustard, a quite big mustard which smells more of garlic than of mustard, but I don't like the flavor. It's too rough, too wild, too bitter. Yeah, if you don't have garlic or mustard, this is a substitute for them, but not the tastiest one. Well, young rose stems are edible, and I doubt Germans can pee that high. Okay, let's take one of them. Already a bit rough, and a bit tough, and a bit astringent, but still a nice savory snack. just past the Australian national basketball team. I'm 1 meter 94 or 6'4", but today I felt small. A nice big cherry tree in the courtyard of this museum. Cherry flowers are edible and some of them are even quite tasty. And behind it is a nice magnolia tree. Also very good and tasty flowers, and they taste pretty different in different magnolia species. And those pigeons would be an excellent source of protein for meat eaters in urban areas if they were not so dirty and full of parasites. Also stinging nettle. Very healthy and plentiful and reasonably tasty food resource. But if you want to eat it raw, you have to squish all those stingers. Better to be stuck in the hand than in the tongue. Yeah. Quite a decent taste even like that. That you can cook a lot of things with it. It's very plentiful. Very rich in iron and protein. Good thing. Especially if you have gloves to harvest it. Look at that. I like using nightshades as climate indicators. And here some have survived the winter. However, this is not a normal Solanum nigrum. This looks more like Solanum dulcamara, but it doesn't look too typical. Let's assume it's Solanum dulcamara, a species which almost never survived the winter in the 20th century in Germany. Now you can see the tips of the branches are all okay, the nettle did sting me in my throat. The tips of the branches are all frozen off, but the older woodier parts are alive and they are producing new shoots. Meaning, yeah, once again an indicator. The winter was harsher than the last couple winters, but not too harsh. It managed to freeze the younger, less woody tips of those Solanum dulcamara branches, but it didn't manage to kill the older, slightly woodier ones. Resources, resources, resources. Oh well, nothing much for me. I guess I could use a couple of the baskets, maybe not this one full of hair. I guess I could use a couple of the baskets and boxes and stuff if I had a lot of fruits to collect. Yeah, but I don't, so they all go into the trash. A lot of pots, but since I'm not sowing anything this year, also, nah. Old Parot Cissus tricuspidata vines. What an untapped potential. But no, those are valuable ornamentals. We are leaving them alone. Tasty bladder nut. Already full of buds. Start flowering soon. Here in the West, we usually just know about the edible seeds. But that's why you should post stuff on YouTube, because when I posted the video about the seeds, somebody from Afghanistan replied, "What, you eat the seeds? We just eat the flowers." Then I tried the flowers and they were delicious. The buds are also quite good. Nice. I even like the flowers a bit better. And here are last year's fruits. That's why it's called bladder nut. Oops. Lost one of the seeds. The seeds are still perfectly good. in spring. Yeah, perfectly good but slippery. Well, they are pressed into the ground everywhere by people walking here, and I totally butchered this one, but you can see that it's still fresh. Quite small to taste details, but you get a bunch of them, which is quite easy. Yeah, collecting a bunch of them is quite easy. Breaking and cleaning them isn't. Here you can see tons of fruits and a lot of seeds. But yeah, with a bit of work, you can get a reasonable amount of the little nuts or seeds in autumn, in winter, and in spring. The most popular resource to forage in Germany are cans and bottles. You get a quarter for them, for each one in Germany. No, quarters don't exist in Germany, but you get 25 cents. And yeah, I usually don't collect them, but since I have to keep this habitat here clean anyways, on the way back I'll put it somewhere at the train station where somebody will take it for sure. Look at those snails. They are called vineyard snails in German, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the native Helix pomatia, and this is the Mediterranean. What was it called? Helix something. Although it looks a bit strange, it almost looks like a hybrid, but I'm not a zoologist. Well, the Mediterranean species became invasive around here like 10-12 years ago, and now it's more common than the native one, actually. Always happy to see the native one, and the right one was a native Helix pomatia for sure. But yeah, invasive snail. They are edible, but I've never eaten them, even when I was a child and was not a vegetarian. We had neighbors in Bulgaria who ate them, and we had some people who cultivated them for export, but I've never tried them. Comment if you know what snails taste like.